Every man eventually finds himself staring into the silence of doubt. At first, everything seemed effortless, the warmth in her words, the eagerness in her tone, the comfort of her presence. You could feel the rhythm between you, as if it were unshakable. Then one day, without warning, something shifts. The replies slow down. The enthusiasm fades. She seems more distracted, less engaged, and her laughter doesn't carry the same weight it once did. You notice her withdrawing piece by piece, and what unsettles you most is that she doesn't explain. Instead, she leaves you to guess, to search between lines, to fill the gaps with your own restless imagination. It's in these moments that men begin to spiral. You wonder what changed, what you did wrong, or if she's already halfway out of the door. You start watching her every action with microscopic detail. Was that pause before answering intentional? Did that distant tone mean she no longer cares? Her absence in small things suddenly feels like an overwhelming presence, an invisible wall separating the man she once seemed to desire from the man she now seems uncertain about. This is the moment of doubt, the crack in your certainty, and it feels heavier than it should. Because love, when it's uncertain, doesn't fade quietly, it gnaws at you, eats at your confidence, and reshapes the way you see yourself. But what many men fail to realize is that this shift is not always a declaration of her absence. Sometimes it's not indifference at all, but conflict inside her heart. The coldness you fear so much is often not the death of her care, but the mask she wears when her feelings overwhelm her. Doubt convinces you she is gone, but often, it is only the beginning of a deeper truth. Directly, through words, actions, or gestures that make his intentions clear. But for a woman, care is more complicated. It is tangled in her fears, her memories, and the risk of being vulnerable. When emotions run too deep, she doesn't always lean in closer, she often steps back. That distance is not absence, but a mask. It is the shield she builds when the weight of her own feelings becomes too heavy to expose openly. To a man, her sudden shift feels confusing, even cruel. Yesterday she seemed soft, open, and affectionate. Today she is colder, sharper, almost detached. But beneath that surface, there is conflict. If she truly felt nothing, her behavior would be flat, her responses empty, her presence fading without effort. But coldness takes effort. Guardedness takes energy. Even silence, when it carries tension, is proof that you still matter to her. This is why indifference is easy to recognize. It is clean, empty, and final. A woman who has stopped caring doesn't need to pretend. She doesn't need to act irritated, avoidant, or distant. She simply moves on, free of the storm. But when she acts colder than she feels, when she withholds affection, when she creates distance that seems deliberate, she is revealing something without admitting it, that her emotions still have power over her. The mask of distance is not rejection, it is protection. It's her way of managing vulnerability, of testing whether you can withstand her silence without breaking, of seeing if your presence is strong enough to remain steady even when her behavior becomes a storm. Beneath that mask, her care lingers, waiting for a moment it feels safe to show itself. Men often mistake inconsistency for a lack of care. When she shifts between warmth and distance, you begin to assume she's losing interest, that her feelings are fading. But inconsistency is not indifference, it is conflict. It is the push and pull of someone wrestling with emotions too strong to ignore yet too frightening to fully embrace. If she truly didn't care, there would be no storm, no unpredictability, no sudden changes in how she treats you. There would only be stillness, the quiet indifference of someone whose heart has already let go. Her conflict shows in the small contradictions. One moment she leans in, seeking closeness, allowing you to feel her softness. The next, she pulls away, erecting walls as if she regrets ever letting you in. That tug-of-war is not the mark of someone detached, it is the mark of someone torn between desire and fear. Her affection betrays her, her distance protects her. This constant oscillation is her way of trying to balance two opposing forces, her longing to connect and her fear of losing control. For the man on the receiving end, it is maddening. You crave consistency, stability, clarity. Instead, you are handed confusion, left to wonder which version of her is real. But the very presence of conflict is the proof you seek. It shows that you occupy space in her heart, enough space to unsettle her peace. If you didn't matter, she wouldn't struggle. she would simply be gone. In truth, inconsistency is a hidden confession. It says, I feel, but I'm afraid to feel too much. It says, you matter enough to disrupt me. What feels like rejection is often only hesitation, and what feels like confusion is, in fact, unspoken care disguised as resistance. Silence is one of the most powerful truths in relationships. Words can be twisted, gestures can be faked, and emotions can be hidden behind masks, but silence has a way of cutting through pretense. When you step back, when you stop chasing, silence begins to speak for both of you. It reveals where the bond truly stands, because absence always forces clarity. If she feels nothing, your silence won't disturb her. She won't notice, won't question, won't reach out. But if she does care, that silence will echo inside her, pulling at her thoughts when she least expects it. A woman who still feels something cannot fully ignore the void your absence creates. She may not admit it, but she will check your presence in small ways. She might glance at your social media, linger around spaces where you might appear, or ask subtle questions through others. These are not accidents, they are the quiet behaviors of someone testing whether you are still there. Silence makes her confront the very emotions she tries to suppress. The mistake most men make is breaking the silence too soon. They rush to fill the gap, to ease their own discomfort, not realizing that silence was already working for them. True indifference reveals itself through silence, she will simply continue on, unaffected. But true care also reveals itself through her restlessness, her unease, her subtle efforts to reconnect without saying so directly. Your willingness to embrace silence becomes a test of strength. It forces her to face the weight of losing you, and in that tension, her true feelings surface. Silence is not absence, it is presence amplified. It is the mirror that reflects what words and actions often try to conceal. Care does not always appear in gentle forms. Many men believe that if a woman truly cares, her affection will always be soft, nurturing, and openly expressed. But in reality, care often hides behind resistance, frustration, or even anger. These emotions confuse men because they look like rejection on the surface, but they are often signs of deep investment. A woman who no longer cares will not waste her energy arguing, testing, or reacting. She won't fight, she won't resist, and she won't create tension, she will simply detach and leave. True apathy is quiet. But when she is still involved emotionally, her care can come wrapped in contradictions. She may question you, challenge you, withdraw one moment and return the next. Her irritation or coldness can feel harsh, but beneath it is proof that you still hold power in her heart. She wouldn't resist you if she felt nothing. Resistance only comes from someone who is still vulnerable to you. It is her way of protecting herself while simultaneously remaining entangled. To the man, this resistance is frustrating. You want clear affection, not conflict. Yet understanding this paradox is crucial. The storm she creates is not to push you away permanently, it is to shield herself from the intensity of her feelings. What seems like rejection is often the struggle of someone afraid of giving in too much. Recognizing the energy behind her resistance changes everything. That energy is attention. That attention is proof. And proof of care does not always look sweet or tender, it sometimes looks sharp, conflicted, even hostile. But as long as she invests effort, even through resistance, it means you still matter more than she wants to admit. When a woman tries to show she doesn't care, what you are often seeing is not freedom but performance. Indifference is effortless, it requires no words, no displays, no strategies. A woman who has truly moved on does not post about how happy she is without you, does not flaunt her independence, does not exaggerate her new life. She simply lives it. But when she goes out of her way to prove her disinterest, when she showcases her laughter for others to see, when she subtly ensures that you notice her absence, she is not detached, she is acting. And acting always requires an audience. That audience, whether she admits it or not, is you. The very energy she invests in demonstrating her supposed indifference exposes the truth, she is still entangled. Her pride may not allow her to show vulnerability directly, so she stages her distance, creating the illusion of emotional freedom. But illusions are fragile. The need to prove something is evidence that it is not yet true. Men often mistake this theater for reality, panicking at the sight of her appearing happy without them. But the louder she tries to broadcast her indifference, the less indifferent she actually is. The effort betrays her. If she had truly let go, there would be no performance, no stage, no rehearsed indifference. Only quiet, and quiet is the language of someone who has truly moved on. Understanding this theater protects you from reacting emotionally. It allows you to see her performance not as rejection, but as conflict, a struggle between caring deeply and hiding it fiercely. What she tries hardest to deny is often what burns brightest inside her, and the more she tries to act indifferent, the clearer her hidden care becomes. This is the place where most men stumble. Faced with distance, mixed signals, or coldness, they panic. They chase harder, explain endlessly, beg for clarity, or try to convince her of their worth. But every act of desperation erodes the very thing she is unconsciously testing for: masculine composure. A woman's emotions can be chaotic, shifting from warmth to withdrawal in ways that confuse even herself. Deep down, she seeks a man who can remain steady through that storm, a man who will not collapse simply because she has pulled back for a moment. Composure is not about ignoring her or playing games, it is about refusing to lose yourself when her emotions fluctuate. When you remain calm, grounded, and unshaken, you project strength. That strength becomes the anchor she secretly craves. It tells her that you are not dependent on her moods to define your stability. In a world where her own feelings can overwhelm her, your steadiness becomes a safe place, a reminder that not everything bends with the wind. Silence, patience, and self-control are not weaknesses, they are the sharpest tools in your hands. When you stop chasing, when you do not react to every test, when you hold your frame, she is forced to confront the possibility of losing you. That realization carries weight. It shifts the balance, reminding her that your presence is not guaranteed, that your attention must be valued. A man who maintains composure is not cold, he is confident. He understands that panic destroys attraction while steadiness builds respect. She will try to shake your ground, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. And when she finds you unshaken, she discovers the very thing that makes her want to stay. A woman's emotions rarely follow a straight, predictable path. One day she convinces herself she is finished, that she feels nothing, that she is better off without you. In that moment, she may act with certainty, even pride, as if her decision is final. But emotions are not fixed, they move in cycles, rising and falling like tides. The very next day, or even the next week, she may feel the weight of your absence more deeply than she expected. What seemed easy at first becomes heavy, and what felt like freedom begins to sting with quiet emptiness. This is why men often misread temporary withdrawal as permanent detachment. They see her silence or distance and assume it is the end, rushing to fill the space, desperate to reclaim her attention. But time is the true revealer. It strips away performance and pride, leaving only what cannot be denied. The laughter she shows to others eventually fades when she is alone. The distractions lose their shine. And in the stillness of her private moments, the truth emerges, whether you still matter or not. Patience is the man's greatest ally here. Time tests the strength of her emotions in ways that words cannot. If she has truly moved on, silence and time will make that clear. She will not reach back, will not search for you, will not leave cracks in the door. But if her feelings remain, time will pull her back toward you, no matter how hard she tries to resist. It is in those quiet, unguarded moments that her performance crumbles. Time exposes the difference between pride and truth, between what she pretends to feel and what her heart cannot let go of. Here lies the paradox that confuses most men: the colder she acts, the more she may actually care. A woman who has truly stopped caring does not argue, does not resist, does not pretend. She simply detaches and disappears, leaving behind no traces of struggle. Real indifference is silent, effortless, final. But when she invests energy into showing distance, whether through irritation, withdrawal, or exaggerated independence, that energy itself is proof of her investment. Care does not always come wrapped in tenderness, sometimes it comes disguised as conflict. The more she resists, the clearer it becomes that she is still entangled. If you did not matter, she would not feel the need to shield herself from you. If her heart were untouched, she would not test you, would not attempt to display strength, would not battle with herself over how much to give. Every act of coldness, every wall she builds, is an indirect confession: you affect me more than I want you to know. For the man, the key is not to misinterpret these contradictions. Too many men react emotionally to her defenses, breaking under the weight of her tests. But the one who remains steady, who understands that resistance often hides care, becomes unforgettable. His calm presence forces her to face her true feelings, because no amount of denial can erase what her actions reveal. The paradox of care is this: indifference requires nothing, but conflict demands energy. And energy is proof of value. The man who grasps this truth stops fearing her coldness and starts seeing it for what it is, a sign that he still matters. In standing firm through her contradictions, he becomes the one she cannot truly let go of.